What makes the ideal military specification watch? In my opinion, the ideal mil-spec watch is rugged and indestructible, has a easy-to-read form follows function type aesthetic to it, and most importantly, keeps accurate time. I think you'll find all of these encompassed nicely at a great price in the Marathon Navigator's watch 41mm, available from the Marathon Watch Company, actually a Canadian watch company. If you've never heard of Marathon, well, today we'll tell you all about them and why I feel they make one great field/military spec watch. So without further ado, let's dive into the keyless works. A family company to this day, the Marathon Watch Company started out as the Weinstrom Watch Company in the early 1900s in Canada. In 1939, Morris Wine changed the name to the Marathon Watch Company and got a gig supplying the timepieces and watches to the Allied forces, which is where they got their iconic, relationship with the military. Marathon uses Swiss movements, mainly ETA movements, and assembles and cases all of their watches in La Chaux-de-Fonds, Switzerland, allowing the watch to proudly bear the label Swiss made. With watch offerings that range from field watches like the Hamilton khaki style to diving watches to aviator style watches, Marathon Watch really does run the gamut of all the various military/law enforcement type field, navigator, and diving watches. What you see here is what's included when you purchase the watch. Marathon is nice enough to throw in a Arizo lunch bag, a watch catalog, and a catalog for their clock products. Marathon, in addition to making wristwatches, also makes a selection of digital and analog wall clocks and actually thermometers as well. So here's the Navigator itself. As stated before, it's a 41mm watch. The case is made of a fiberglass shell. They call it fiber shell. It's extremely tough. You can feel the build quality just by holding it, which is nice given that it's such a light watch. I think it only weighs somewhere in the neighborhood of around 20 grams. But it feels very, very sturdy. The case back of the watch is made out of 316L stainless steel, and the strap included is a mil-spec 20mm nylon strap. The watch itself comes in 3 different colors. You can get this in black, olive green, and a desert tan kind of color. So going in close for a look at the dial, the watch is rather striking in that it's very, very simple to read. The hands also include the tritium gas discharge tubes, which you can see at all of the indices. The index at the 12 o'clock position is a different color than the rest of the other tritium. It's orange, and there's actually a small amount of tritium in the indicator at the top of the on the bezel, on the rotating bezel. The bezel is I suppose it's an alternate time zone as well. It also has 12 primary indices, so you can set it to an alternate time or use it to track elapsed time as well. What I really like about this version of the watch is that it has the US government markings at the 6 o'clock position and the radioactive symbol at the 3 o'clock position. You can see here, it's hard to see right now at the time, but it's indicating H3 at the 9 o'clock position, which is the isotope of hydrogen being tritium. The watch itself is very, very easy to read, and with a black dial, and the tritium gas discharge tubes are applied indices, which means that they're not painted onto the watch dial, but they're applied either with glue or perhaps small pins. I'm not entirely sure. What's interesting too about this specific watch is I find the cannon pinion, the center pin of the watch that holds the hands, is actually quite tall, so there's a lot of space between the various hands, which is pretty interesting. Now this is, as you can see, it ticking away a quartz movement. The watch includes ETA's F06 high torque 3-joule quartz movement. This movement is the intro level in ETA's line of quartz movements, and I believe it's accurate to plus or minus 5 seconds a month or something like that. again, it's a very, very accurate, it being a quartz watch and whatnot. The amazing thing about this watch is they've designed it to be used for paratroopers, search and rescue, and other pilot type applications, which is the primary reason they went with a hesalite crystal, which is a type of acrylic crystal, versus a sapphire crystal. And you can see one thing I like about acrylic crystals is you can get different shapes on them. This one is a bit of a dome shape, which gives an interesting distortion effect when you look at it from the side. And the main reason they went with that is this watch is good for altitudes up to 35,000 feet, and indeed rapid changes in altitude and temperature. So you can jump out of an airplane with this watch and not have to worry about your crystal cracking. The back of the watch, which I'll flip to right now, is engraved with a lot of information about the watch itself. It shows us the brand of the watch. It's the Navigator's watch, the mil spec, MIL PRF 46374G Type 3 Class 1, and some other coding that I'm not entirely sure of, but 26 millicuries is the amount of radiation that's coming off of those radioactive gas discharge tubes. I never get tired of saying that. That's really, really cool. And some other information as well, along with the website, the control number, and the serial number of the specific watch. So, some of the highlights of the watch. I really, really like the look of it. It's got a very iconic, easy to read, field type, mil spec functionality about it. It's very, very. It feels very rugged in the hand. It's actually quite comfortable on the wrist too. The shape of the lugs, the curvature of the lugs, really make it easy to fit on the wrist, at least on my wrist as well. It being a 41mm watch, it's a fairly decent sized watch, but it sits very well on the wrist, and again, it's feather light. So this is, I think it's good to about 100 meters of depth too. And since this watch is made entirely in Switzerland, you also get the Swiss-made appellation on the bottom. I picked this watch up on Marathon's website on the Navigator sale that they're having right now, and I snagged it for about 200 Canadian dollars. Usually this goes for about 385, I think, to about 400 Canadian dollars when you factor in the US exchange rate. So it's a great sale. Highly suggest you head over to Marathon's website, www.marathonwatch.com, and check it out. It's a great deal, and it's a really good watch. Given the price point, the fact that it's a Swiss-made watch, the fact that it has tritium lume, and the fact that you can have this for about $200 Canadian is just awesome. It comes mounted on a nylon strap, so it's not a NATO strap. The NATO strap would have the metal rings, as well as the it kind of has like an additional strap that comes off to form a pocket. This just slides under the lug, but it still gives you that separation between the stainless steel backing. And again, it's very comfortable. It's also a military spec nylon strap. It's very, very tough and very, very comfortable. Again, you can't go wrong if you like mil spec watches with the Marathon Navigator 41mm quartz. They also make this version with a date complication and without the US government markings, if that's your thing. They also have several different versions of this watch that have various different military logos applied. There's a Canadian one that has a maple leaf on it as well. I believe there are ones that have US Marine Corps markings on them as well. So a great watch, not just if you're in the military, if you just a fan of mil-spec watches, if you're active outdoors, camping, fishing. I can't think of a better watch for that than the Marathon Navigator 41mm. So I hope you've enjoyed this review. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you like it? Do you not? What's your favorite field watch or mil-spec watch?